Hi everyone. I wanted to share something with you that I was working on yesterday afternoon and evening. So just like the Hak4Kidz Tyros, right? We're learning. The adults are learning as well. Doesn't matter where you are in your career, you need to learn. You need to continue improving your skills, practicing, getting challenged. So just as much as you enjoy working on the Hak4Kidz challenge, capture the flags, our CTFs. I like to do them too. And I'll tell you, there's one that my company is sponsoring with this company called RangeForce. And RangeForce is the company providing the challenges. So I'm logged in here, and you can see I have like my dashboard, plus RangeForce offers a bunch of courses. So this is the Blue Team Star Challenge that I've been working on, but there's some other courses and stuff I could do in here. Things related to DevOps or Microsoft security, tools used in the Security Operations Center or the SOC, web application security, and more. So this is really cool. These are some things that we've taught you guys, but these are, I guess, a bit more in depth. Like, I have not done them before, so I don't know what that entails, but I did get started on this one yesterday, and I got working on one of the challenges. I want to show you some of the solutions I found, and then just other information about completed modules and assessments and leaderboard and stuff like that. So here on this part of the dashboard, it shows you that I worked on 3 modules. I have a goal of, a couple modules a month or whatever it was. And then on the leaderboard, this is my current placement. But if I scroll down a little bit, I can pick up where I left off on this Blue Team Star Challenge. And you can see here some other stuff like bookmarks and whatnot. Now, if I click this, it's going to drill down, provides my progress, what the prerequisites are. So I need to have some knowledge of threat intelligence. And if you're not familiar with that, threat intelligence, is information about a threat. A threat is something that could potentially do harm to your computer, steal your data, ransomware, right? That's a threat, so on and so on and so on. So in this challenge down here, this Threat Intel Challenge, they had a piece of malware that was being delivered through email, and you had to find the string that was in the malware that you could use to identify any pieces in the future. And then you had to create you had to update YARA rules. YARA is like definitions for malware, and it wasn't that hard, and it was something I never really had done before. I know about it, but I never had to do it. So it was kind of cool to go there and have to do that. So I learned. I know how to update YARA rules, and I understand I had to do the research. How do I do the research? Your friend and mine, Google, or any other search engine. And then here, this other one is understanding obfuscation techniques used by threat actors. So obfuscation is ways of hiding your threat, your behavior, or what you're doing, as far as like the cyber criminals are doing, and they're considered the threat actors. So I call them cyber criminals. They're usually criminals. But we can also call them a threat actor, because a threat actor could also be somebody doing it for other reasons than trying to just steal your money or encrypt your hard drive with ransomware. They might be doing it for political reasons. And then also, so that was down here, and this obfuscation challenge was pretty fun, because you had a piece of malware. When you ran a command called strings on it, it gave you a lot of bits of code, but the best part was obfuscated in base64. And we've taught you guys what base64 is in the past. It's not encryption, it's just a way to change the information to make it really hard for us to read, nearly impossible unless your brain knows how to read it, and very impressive if somebody does. But this was actually bytecode, which is like executable code, and the bytecode actually wound up being a gzip file. So once you decompress the gzip file, there was information in there like the IP address and the port that they were sending any information that they were stealing or exfiltrating, or exfil as we like to say for short. But I'm going to go down here, right? This last one, ability to monitor, identify, and prevent threats using different security tools found in the SOC, the Security Operations Center. So that's this multi-attack challenge. So this is all very, you could say, blue team related. Threat Intel is like a researcher. collecting that data and kind of making it available for protection. Obfuscation challenge, again, another malware researcher trying to figure out where the hidden commands are and what those commands might be. And a lot of times malware authors sign their malware, so that could be used as a way to detect it, or piece of information to detect it. And then last, the multi-attack challenges. If you are in a SOC, there's things that you would have to do to keep the systems running. And what would those things be? It could be email, it could be a web server, it could be your firewall, it could be just making sure people are not doing certain kinds of activity on your network. And that's what I have here. So I already preloaded it. I'm in this environment. They call it the capstone because it's kind of like the final part. And kind of give you an orientation here. So I'm on a Linux host, right? It looks like it's Ubuntu, right? Because it's got the little Ubuntu symbol here. And if I wanted to know if it was Ubuntu, I can go right here. I can run this command, uname-a, and right there, it's Ubuntu. Cool. So that's a nice terminal window right here, by the way. So I'm going to open up email. So if we go back here, like, it's always good to follow instructions, right? We've got a lab description, that's this page. And then we've got these other 5 areas: the overview, the phishing email, the web attack, brute force attack, and port scanning. And I got through at least 3 of these, and every time I try to stop the web attack or the port scan, I kind of do something to the firewall and make it unusable, and I've got to restart the session. I did that a couple times yesterday, and then I got to start all over. Didn't really pick up where I left off. So I'm kind of like at a point where I just want to share this experience. It was a lot of fun. I spent a good amount of time learning, and I don't know what I'm doing wrong. But I did block the web attacks, but it just never picked it up as being blocked. So I'm not doing it the way they want me to do it. I did it another way, and it worked, but it wasn't good enough. So anyway, in this section, instructions, you are a SOC 1 analyst. So it's kind of like a beginning level analyst in the Security Operations Center at a company called Angels and Scooters. And you've just finished training and received access to all the SOC tools in the company. Which I gotta tell you, if you are a SOC 1 analyst and you have access to all the SOC tools in the company, I think they trust you a lot. I think there's certain tools that you might not need to have yet, only because you could do some serious damage with them if you're just not careful. But these tools here, I hope I say this one name right, Suricata, and I've heard it before, and it was years ago, and I just don't remember how to say it. Suricata, Splunk, and Fail to Ban. These are kind of cool tools. You'll see them, and I'm actually going to bring them up. And then you also have access to the email server. These are the only services you need to configure during the module. Be ready to monitor and fight threats in your organization. Start with learning the infrastructure topology and check your mailbox. Okay, so let's check the topology. That's this tab right here. And it looks pretty simple, but I think the important things here that we need to know are the IP addresses, right? There's nothing else lower. I just try to scroll down. So this would be our computer, our IP address. We can go out to the internet, but there's also a firewall here where I would think this would be maybe up here, perhaps, going through the firewall, but maybe not. Maybe we're on the same network. It could be a laptop plugged into the same network as the firewall. But I don't know how we're going out without the routing, but hey, I'm not going to question. So here's the firewall's IP address, and you got the list of these names here, all these different applications, and I didn't mention Postfix. This is the first time we're seeing it, because they all run on this firewall. So Postfix is basically an email server. You've heard of Outlook or Gmail. Well, Postfix is the actual relay that sends and receives the messages, and you can also have an inbox where you could go and point your mail client. I'm going to do that now, which in this case is Thunderbird. It's the Thunderbird mail client. I double clicked it and it launched, and you can see here I've got some messages. I'll get into that shortly, but we have the last item in the topology is this guy right here with this address is the web server. So one thing to note, every machine here begins with 192.168.6, but this guy which begins with .10. All right, that could be important later, but just want to point that out. Once we're done here, we go get started, and oh wow, we already solved 20% of it by reading the topology and clicking next. RangeForce is very generous. That is very nice of them. Kind of makes you feel good, right? Here's some important information, right? We've got our desktop, that's the host name. We have our user ID as student, didn't give us the password, but we're all auto logged in anyway. This would be our IP. The firewall, which we saw in the topology, you can see here the host name's firewall student, is the username as well as the password. You know that's not good security, but this is a playground. Think of it as a technology playground that gets destroyed as soon as I click and close the tab. It doesn't need to have the highest level of password security. In fact, if the password was too complicated, it wouldn't be as fun because I'd be struggling with that rather than learning the technology. So just one password, even if it's a dictionary word, it's okay. That's the IP of the firewall. We mentioned the services. If we need to get into Splunk, that's the username and password. Typically, when you see that format, like a name, colon, and then something else, other than like RangeForce, again, 2 dictionary words put together, not the best password. But it's okay in this case. And then all the other tools, and then a little bit of information about the web application is using a reverse proxy used to encrypt and decrypt the website traffic, right? So HTTPS. And lastly, we have the server. Server name is, the host name is server. The student and is the same username and password. And there's the IP, and then this is the service that's running on the server. So that's everything in the topology and how to access this stuff. Let's look at the email really quick. So here's some emails. And if you look at the time date stamp, right, usually you kind of want to go in that order. So this is the oldest message. It's at the top. Sometimes you'll see it where the oldest message is, the newest message is on the top. And that's okay. It's a matter of preference. But I like this only because as a student on this platform, I would want to go top down. So I'm actually getting them in the proper order. And I can see I have an email from Anna who can't claim a prize. I honestly just didn't even read these emails because I know it's just kind of a part of the story. Oh, by the way, next objective, phishing email. You already have your first incident. A customer's forwarded you an email that might be malicious. You have to configure the mail server to reject incoming emails from a phishing domain. Now, I like how they give you hints, and their hints in this challenge don't have any penalty as far as points or anything. But it was actually, it's kind of nice. You click the hint so they don't kind of give it to you right away, or you got to like try not to look at it. It's always very tempting. But here we have this person that Anna can't get her prize, and you could see she forwarded a message, but this does not look like a forwarded message because it usually would have FW or FWD in front of it. So this is just some other email. I'll look at it later if I need to. Some other email about competitions, not really of interest. And here's the forward, and it's kind of just like, it's got some the email guts, if you want to call it that, where it's the header information, where you can see where the information started, kind of the path it went from. So, you can see who it's from, the date, the subject to. So it's kind of, all the details. But the part that I found to be valuable for this particular case is this section right here. Because we know there's a phishing attack. She's having a problem. She probably clicked this link, and it took her to a web page. Why don't we just click that and see what happens? And okay, it's loading a website. That's fine. Angel Scooter. Looks like something's broken here. Let's go back. Minimize that. Let's go back over here, and let's go back to the overview, right? Because it told us what the website is. Here's the website. So if I go here, this is what the website should look like. But that's what we got. If I hit reload, it still doesn't come up. So there's something weird about this. Now, for the sake of simply, we got another message that there's a problem. I'm going to copy this. Just close it. We got this new tab here. Paste and go. Now, we have them side by side. But if you notice, right here, angels, plural, and scooters. Angels and but it's not here. They're missing an S. So they registered a domain that had no S in the middle, because way our eyes read it is we'll just skip it. We ignore some of these things. And so now I'm like, okay, I figured out that's the phishing domain. So in here, as you can see right here, Scooter S Angels. Wait, didn't we just say it's Angels Scooters Lab? They got it backwards. Oh, that was the other thing they did. So I was wrong. They didn't remove the S. They flipped the words. So, and by the way, I just kind of took you through the logic when I was doing this yesterday, because I first thought, well, there's an S in the middle missing, and then it later dawned on me they flipped the words. Even though on the web page it still says Angels and Scooters, the domain is flipped. So in here, we can get this domain, copy that guy, could have gotten it from the other one, copy. Now we need to do something with this. Well, we know that postfix is the mail server, and I did a little searching and found the commands for postfix. I have not used postfix in years, but we're on desktop. See that? Student desktop. So we need to get to the firewall, and if you remember, the firewall had a certain IP address, but to get there we have to do something called secure shell. And why don't we go back here, firewall. Okay, so let me see if I could ping firewall first. Okay, I could ping firewall, so we could use that as a host name, but also I could have used the IP address, and we know the user is student and the password student. So what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to say SSH as student and then at firewall. Now with SSH, it wants the username at that location. So it's user at location. So that's an easy way to remember. And let's see what if I hit enter. All right, permanently added, excuse me, firewall and the IP address to the list of known hosts. Okay, so then you would see that with SSH for the first time when you're authenticating to it. And then I could run the administrator command root or sudo commands. And if I don't know how to use sudo, then I can run man sudo underscore root for details. But if you notice, when we were here, it said desktop, and now it says firewall. So we're on the firewall. So I can type in clear, if I can learn how to spell, and just kind of clear out all the other stuff. So now we have a clean terminal, and we can then go to postfix. Now, one thing I like to do is just say, okay, PWD, we're in home student, and let's see, we got a mail directory here. But as student, this is my mail directory. So what I would have to do is typically on a firewall, and by the way, let's just do uname minus a. Is this Ubuntu? Yep, this is Ubuntu. And what I want to do is I can do an ls here for a list. Make this a little longer. Whoops. Let's see, get the mouse right here, this virtual environment. Oh, I added it, it moved. Okay. I'm looking for postfix, and it's probably up here. It's right over there. All right, cool. So I could have also done ls post star, and it would have just given me everything that has post in it, even these config files. So I want to go to the postfix directory. I don't necessarily see a postfix directory. It's right there. It's blue. And when I'm down here, I don't know. ls seems to have gone recursively and looked a bit lower. So I'm just going to go cd postfix. All right, now in ls, and look at where I am. So here's, let me clear out again. This one has this alias LL, so it's like ls-la, so you get the same listing. A lot of the systems don't have that, so you have to type all 5 or 6 characters if you include the space or keys, but 2, and that is great. I'm going to clear LL, and we have configuration files. So now, if we look through it, there's maps. These are CF means config files. This is the main one, master, install files. SASL, I don't know what that is. I could research it. Maybe secure access, security layer. That's pretty good. Sender access and a sender access DB. Well, we want to block a certain sender from a certain domain. That looks pretty good. So before we go in and try to edit it, why don't we do a cat on it and take a look at it. Blacklist matching the mail from field. Okay, mail from fields. Now, I already know this, but I'm going to show you that when you did the from here, that's the mail from field, right? And that's the lab, Scooters Angels, we want to block. Perfect. We're on the right track. So if I go here And let's do sudo, because we need to be an administrator. And by the way, if you look at all these files, their permissions all say root. Well, we're not root, we're student. But to act like root, we use sudo or super user do command, and we'll do a sudo. I like nano. You could use vi, vim, whatever you want. You know, they say real hackers use vi. Good. I'm not a real hacker. I like nano. It's easy enough for me. I could use vi. I'm an old Solaris admin. I could use vi. I just don't want to. But then if I do sender access, right now we're in here, and I'll go here, and now I can just arrow down, and I'll right click, paste that domain, and if you look, it says action, right? Well, what would be my action? Could be allow. We don't want that. We want to reject. So this way, when it connects, we drop it, it's gone. Now I got to do Control X to exit. By the way, there's commands down here on the bottom to help you. Control X. Yes, I want to save. That's the file name. If I wanted to change it, I could change it right now. I'm pressing enter. And then if we do a cat again, we now have what we added on the bottom. I'll do a clear. Oop, come on now. And there's a domain. Now, we're not quite done. We made a change to the file, but Postfix still doesn't know about it. Postfix, unless it restarts or reboots or reloads, doesn't know about this new domain. So we need to do something. We need to tell it. And if I recall correctly, it's post map, and then I'll just try sender access. So this should load that new permission field. What did I forget to do? I forgot sudo. So that's a good example of when you see certain errors, don't assume that you're completely like in the wrong direction. You might have just forgotten the one little command to elevate your permissions in order to make the change that you need to make. It's not the end of the world. It's not a reason to just raise your hand, and it's okay to make mistakes. So the next time you'll remember to do it. But forgetting to type in sudo, not that big of a deal. Press enter, and we got no response back. Did that mean we did it? Does that mean we did it incorrectly? No. Because a lot of times on a Linux machine, if you don't get a response back, it's good. It means you did what you're supposed to do. Linux will tell you when you make a mistake most of the time. There are some things that it will just continue doing, and you'll just sit there and realize, why are all my files disappearing? Well, don't remove all your files from root and force it and do it recursively. But anyway, so now, if you haven't noticed, we're up to 40%, and we got a little green check mark on the phishing email. So that's pretty cool. So we've gotten 2 done already. Now let's go look at web attack. This is the one that when I made changes, I used fail to ban to put the attack in jail, and then the brute force. But let me take you from the very beginning on how you would, if you were working in the SOC as a level 1 analyst, how would you analyze this? Well, let's go back to email. So now we're all proud of ourselves. We stopped the phishing. Hooray. Now, we've been getting these alerts. I don't know if you noticed them. They were popping up in the corner. And let's first look at, I like this one with the SSH brute force. So we got a Splunk alert. Here's the information on the Splunk alert. But I just want to view the results. If I click this, it's going to immediately take me to the link in Splunk. I don't know if you remember, but the username was admin, and the password was RangeForce. And if you don't remember, I'll show you. Now we log in. If I come back here, go to lab description, overview, right here, admin RangeForce. See? Everything we need is right there. So now we're looking at Splunk. We're not going to give you a full lesson on Splunk. There are professionals who can do it a billion million times better than me. I know how to use Splunk like I know how to use Wireshark. If I don't know how to do something, I Google it. So right here, I know that my source is from this log file, right? Failed to ban, and then it was searching on something that said SSHD. So we use the SSH client, typing in SSH earlier. D is the daemon or the daemon that is running on the server, and if something's found, and you can see them all highlighted here. What is the most important part of all of this is this IP right here. So knowing this IP means that the person from this IP address is trying to SSH into our firewall and brute forcing. All right. So now we got the logs, right? We got another one here, and if we were to click the results, we don't have to log in this time, but the IP will be pretty much the same. So I'm just going to paste it here. You see how they're the same, even though we're not going to put that in our search. We don't need it. Just wanted to show you. All right, so now what do we got to do? Let's go back to terminal. Now here's where I open up a second terminal. And the reason why I want to open up a second terminal is I want to watch the logs. So we know from the Splunk alert that there was a certain log file where this was coming up from. So here's what I like to do. You could do it a different way. It's totally fine. Is I want to go back onto the firewall in a second terminal, and then as a sudo, which I probably don't need to do, but I just do it anyway out of habit, and that was the wrong command. I'm going to do tail F, which means give me like the last, I think it's 20 lines of a file, or you could specify, maybe it's 10 lines. I forgot what the default is, but you could specify the number of a file. But just every time, and the dash F means every time that file updates, I want to see what, what happens. Let me know. So I'm going to do autocomplete. Just this is another cheat thing here I like to do. Okay, there's two others in there. So do log, and then we know it's failed to ban. There we go. Autocomplete worked. And I don't want everything. So if I do this, I'm going to get everything. It so happens that yes, what we need is there. You can see the IP, but I could also do this. I can grep. I can pipe the output to the grep command, and then say, just look for this IP. Just give me the IP. So you can see every time, and it also makes it red, so it's easier to see. So every time that bad guy is trying to do something or brute force onto our server, we see it, right? Expired ban time. All right. So for whatever reason, this guy can't get in, or they're trying to get in, and we're seeing all the records. So now we need to go to fail to ban. So we need to go up a level, CD, fail to ban, and we can do an LL here. And you can see these are the files that are there. Now the one file, the main file that configures the whole thing is failtoban.conf. Well, we don't really need to configure the service, but we do want to know what we want to put in jail. And this stuff it's kind of really out of scope for what we're doing. So I want to clear, give me a cat on jail, and there's no other jail. Oh, there it is, copy, conf. Okay, and then this is going to give us everything. Well, it was a bit more than my terminal can handle, so let me do this. Let me go clear. I'm going to do it again, but I'm going to say more, pipe it to more. So every time there's a page, oops, we don't want that. There's a page, it'll bring that, so I can read it. Now as I'm reading it, this is telling me information about how to activate the jails, what you should not modify on the file, so on and so forth. And I can see there's some ban times and all this other good stuff. There's includes at the very, very bottom. I'm hitting spacebar, there's more information, and this looks kind of good, but I don't want to read this, so I'm going to quit out. And instead of piping it to more, I'm going to pipe it to grep, if I could spell grep, and then SSH, and see what happens. Ah, this is what I need. So SSH, IP tables, jail, commenting, the daemon, this is like, these brackets usually mean like a section or a category or whatever you want to call it, a delimiter. And then there's some stuff here for SSHD, and then I see port equals SSH. So that's the stuff I want. So this is the right file. I'm in the right place, but I need to edit it. So now remember, if we do an LL on jail, it's owned by root, and who am I? I'm student, as you can see there. So I can't modify this file. I need to use sudo nano and then jail conf, right? If I hit enter, well, if you remember before when we did a cat, it took a while to go find SSH. I don't want to have to sit here and like arrow down 150 times. So there's a nice command in here. It's called where is. So if you do control W, oops, no, I don't want that. Control W, what? I can't use the command? It won't let me? No, 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 it's adding in. No, I need to use the command. It won't let me use it. Chrome wants to close the tab, and I don't want to do that. I want to find it. So now I have to hold the arrow down key. It's backfired. It worked totally fine on a Mac. PC is not letting me do what I want. Okay, jails. Okay, good. Alright, so what we want to add here, right? So here's a problem. SSHD, it's not enabled. We need to add enabled equals true. No, not Turing. True. Now, how do I know this? Well, I know this because I read. I'll tell you, whether you're doing preventative hacking or trying to break in hacking, you always got to read something. You got to learn. Not everybody knows everything, and I had to read about fail2ban. I've never used it before. It's actually a pretty cool tool. I think I'm going to be using it on some of my other Linux boxes and firewalls, but I love how it's really easy to use, very flexible, and but it has these options here off by default. So some basic configurations in there, like the port, log path, backend, but it's not enabled. But I also want to add an action. My action, and I know again about this because I read, we make these all at the same place. My action is to update IP tables, which is the firewall that runs on Linux. So IP tables, IP Internet Protocol tables, basically a list or tables of different rules, and things that are allowed, things that are denied. And what it's going to do is it's going to update IP tables with a name called SSH. It'll define the port to be SSH, which is 22, and then the protocol, because there's the thing called the 5 tuple, however you want to say it, is your source, your destination, source port, destination port, and protocol. You need those 5 things, especially if you're making a firewall rule. It's good to know, where is it coming from, where is it going to, a port. You don't always need the source port, but you definitely want the destination port. In this case, it's SSH. And then the protocols are going to be TCP, UDP, something else. We need to know that. And I think this is all. Oh. The last thing, actually I could put it here, is the ban time. How long do we want to ban it? Now we can do, like no time at all. But for fun, I did 1 week. All right, 1 week. And that is it for here. Now, I don't know how I'm going to exit because I can't exit because the command, let me see, oh wait, maybe the X, oh yeah, that'll work. So I can't do Control W to close the tab, but I can do Control X. So that's right, I just did that before. Man, I can't remember things. All right, so now I save my file, and if you want to test it, remember, cat jailconf, pipe it to grep, and look for SSH. And now you can see the action. We don't see enabled, but we see action, which is great. And we see we don't see ban time, but this is great because SSH is in there. Awesome sauce. Now it's still happening, right? We're still getting these emails of the brute force attacks happening, and we're still seeing our logs. They're still coming in, right? It's still happening here. So just like postfix, we need to tell fail2ban, you got to read the jail.conf file. Well, how do we do that? We read. Well, apparently, fail2ban has a client, and if we were to just type that in, we would learn the commands. And I went through this and I read it, and I was like, I want one that's going to do a block or some kind of like the word ban. And I went through the list, and then I found ban IP. Woohoo! That's what I want. And it took a few tries to finally get it right, to get the syntax and everything the way it should be. But the way the command would be for this instance would be fail, oops, I forgot something, sudo fail2ban. We want to do the client, right? And we want to do something very, very, very verbose. We want to use the set command. We want to say SSHD, right? Secure shell daemon or daemon. And we want to ban an IP, and it's this IP. Do we still have that in our clipboard? Yes. So, whatever it is, 1036, 175.10. I always double check, sometimes triple check, because you don't want to ban something you don't really intend to ban. But if you want to just make sure you're doing it right, Just double check and triple check your work. I'm gonna press enter. I'm a little nervous, but let's just see what happens. Oh, let me get this here on the bottom. We got that. So you can see the bottom. You can see the two here. And I press enter. We got a lot of info. Tracing, some debug info, very, very verbose. Alright, that's the port scan. Band time. Oh, it's not working yet. Did it happen? No. Did I forget something? Alright, we're going to do this. Sometimes it does take a few seconds, according to the folks at RangeForce. They said give it like 20 seconds sometimes for these scripts to run. But we see expired band time. It's not exactly what we want. So we see that this guy is still pounding on our front door using SSH. So what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to do sudo service. I want to run this command service that's going to let me restart or reload services. The service is fail to ban. I'm going to restart. Okay, that should be pretty clear. Sudo elevate my privileges to do something. The something is run the service utility. The service name is fail to ban, and then the actual command is to restart. And in doing so, this guy stopped. Now, if we ran tail F without the grep on the IP, we would see all the stuff happening that would show it's starting up. But if you call it, look at this, like how many, look at the timestamps, right? Like every, I'm trying to figure out, every few seconds, it's kind of running here. Right? It was pretty frequent. I'm not seeing it anymore. This hasn't gone up yet, though. What does this mean? Did I break it again? Oh, I'm going to do it this way. And exiting. I'm not seeing errors. That's kind of good. Shut down, right? The observer stopped. Stop all jails. Remove the log file. SSH. Flush tickets with multi-port. Jail. SSH stopped. Connection database closed. Exiting failed to ban. Something's not right. Let me try this. Did I break it again? I don't know why it's not working. It worked yesterday. Hey, happy hacking. Sometimes things just don't work out. I'm gonna nano back in here. I'm gonna try to get down. Maybe I forgot something. Alright, SSHD. Enabled equals true. Our port's SSH. Oh, I forgot. Filter equals SSHD. So I'm not 100% sure about what the filter option here is, other than it's designed to filter out, I guess, certain connection attempts to that service. But let me double check my... Oh, I have a typo. That's the bug. Or in my case, the glitch or the error. I forgot the letter. It's IP tables, not table. So that was my mistake. So the filter was not really the issue. I really believe this is the issue right here. Bandwidth. You know, let's throw in a max retry here. So, you know, we kind of set the time like, hey, it's whoops. It's 5 attempts, and then we're going to ban. All right. So I'm going to exit out, save. We already ran the command to ban that guy, so we don't really need to do that again. But we could probably just... See, I'm kind of a lazy typist. I just use the up and down arrow. That's the key. That's the history. So sudo service failed to ban restart. Now we're looking at the logs. Oh, added log file. We didn't get that before. Okay, action. Okay, ban. This is what we wanted. Ban. Come on. Yeah, baby, we got more points. Look at that. Well, I'm going to stop here because I was trying to use Suricata to prevent the port scanning, and whenever I made changes, I just took down the firewall. So I'm not going to go any further, but I thought this would be fun. We've been here now together for, I don't know, 40 minutes or so, but I think you got a good idea of some ways to protect your systems. The web attack also, it could have been something in the proxy, it could have been something with fail to ban. I tried to do that with fail to ban, and I just using like regular expressions, trying to figure out, because I'll show you this. If we go to the automated web, what happens in this one is you can see this is from this IP address, this host. Here's the timestamp. It's the web request of get, so that means it's going to get something. It's going to this images.php file, and the question mark means, hey, I'm going to pass some parameters and values to you. The parameter is ID, and this is the value. Well, we know at Hak4Kidz this is base 64. So let's go to our deobfuscator, your friend and mine, ASCII to hex, and where is it? It didn't come up. Alright, let me try this without the spaces. Yeah, right there at the top. Perfect. And if we scroll down to base 64 and we paste in that, like that stuff, the information from the log that was a part of a web request, right? You could watch this. Watch this. They're passing a SQL command. So MySQL is the database, and the MySQL like command is like MySQL. That's the tool, and it's passing a user and a password. So they're brute forcing their way into the web server. So if you remember the web server, right here it is. But there's a login page, and if I was to use user as password and password as angel, then user is password and password is, it was angels. Yeah, angels. Try to log in, angels. Fail. But they're trying to do that to the MySQL database. They're trying to use commands to get into the database through the website. So it's kind of tricky, kind of nasty. But I'm going to stop here, and we're not going to get any more. If we get a brute force in that message, it's just to let us know that the attempt was happening, because it was picked up in the logs. And if you recall, we stopped them, right? They're not able to do it anymore. So that's pretty cool. And let me show you this part. If you remember, we had that action, and the action said to do something with IP tables. So if I do sudo IP tables -L, big L for list. All right, that's too big. All right, so we added this rule in the firewall dynamically because of the fail to ban utility, and it's F2B, fail to ban, SSH. That was a part of the action. I put the SSH in there, and you can see from anywhere, destination port is SSH, and it doesn't say block, but it accepts here. That's weird. I guess I need to go and dig in deeper, but that is like the fail to ban is the tool that automatically updated our firewall rules to stop somebody from trying to brute force or keep trying to log into our oh, here it is. Okay, that's the part we didn't get. So here's the very beginning of the grep, but this is the top part, the chain policy drop. So any one of these things that comes in here is a drop. All right, pretty cool. We could do that also with the web attack to that IP address and the port scanning, because that's the other one too. The other one with the port scanning. If you go here, you can just tell you it's like this IP did that many. Actually, number of destination ports is this guy here. It's like, so anyway, I mean, the logs are helpful and it's important to know how to use them. But this is where I'm going to stop. And I think it was kind of fun. I'm glad you guys joined me in some of my adventure. I didn't get to finish it. That's okay. I know how to block these things with firewall rules, but I don't think that's what they want me to do. They want me to use the RangeForce tool as well as fail to ban. And I tried to figure out how to use RangeForce. It wasn't that hard. I just couldn't figure out like the right way of doing it. But either way, this was a lot of fun. Thank you for joining me. Stay healthy, everyone. Be better. And question truth.